So we are rowing today in our workout at CrossFit Sandpoint, and I've been noticing something in a lot of people that I feel like needs to be addressed in a video, and we probably need to be a bit better about enforcing it in athletes as they are performing their rowing workouts. And that is the issue of spinal flexion. Most people, as we instruct things like deadlifts and kettlebell swings and cleans and even squatting patterns and pressing or any other sort of patterns, we're really enforcing that tight core, brace spine to ensure that there's no movement about the low back through the vertebrae. And I think that everyone does a very good job of that. And we are quick to get on it as far as cueing the movement, fixing the movement, and getting people to reinforce a proper movement pattern as they progress through their lifts. Now, for some reason, rowing, and this goes well beyond the scope of what happens here at CrossFit Sandpoint. This is something that I see in a lot of different sports and practices, is that spinal flexion becomes okay when there's not a load. Now, the idea of a load is a very relative term. Just because somebody's holding a 45-pound barbell, they recognize that they need to keep their core tight and back flat. Then when that barbell goes away, there's somehow a free pass to not maintaining the integrity of that position. So 45 pounds is not all that much, but it's recognized as a load versus not a load for somebody performing a movement. And the same idea then translates over into being on the rower. It translates especially in cyclists. I'm baffled at how there's not more. Maybe there is. I'm not, to be quite frank, I'm not, or more transparent, I'm not real into the cycling scene necessarily, so maybe there is, but I don't see it, is that people get a free pass to flex their spine, especially about the low back, which I'll post some links to some good videos and good articles on the subject. But basically your spine's a bunch of stacked vertebrae. There's vertebrae and there's discs in the middle, and the more those two things flex, these discs are prone to either bulging or herniation. And so the more times you do this, the more times you're in this position, or if you're, for example, lifting under a load, and this disc is in this position here, these vertebrae are in this position here, and it's compressing those discs. That's when that force gets translated through those. That's when that disc either gets in that bulging, is prone to that bulging or herniation. So the rowing is the same. Again, talking about the loaded versus unloaded position here, loaded versus unloaded movement here. I'm not going to row because I want to keep the volume down, but in a rowing position, this seems to be okay for a lot of people. A lot of people will do this reach, and I've got real long legs, so that may look dramatic, but that's common for a lot of people. They'll reach in here and pull. They'll reach in here and pull. Reach in here and pull. Now, if you were to do that with a barbell and do this move, which is the same thing, and pull, you would know, I would imagine, that just visually you'd know that was wrong, and by feel you would know that was wrong. So, when reaching here, this is going to be the same, it's got to be the same idea. So a good proper deadlift or a clean is going to be here, back flat, hips back. Same thing's got to be on the rower, this catch position. Hips back, back flat. So that may seem, again, coming back to, so just to reinforce that when you're rowing, you've got to maintain flat back, bring your hips forward, and not reach forward with so much with your back. Now again, as you consider this idea, you may think, again, it's unloaded. I'm sure I could probably look up some data on what the actual force required to pull this is at certain rates. I don't know that, but it's certainly not unloaded. especially for those of you that can generate a good amount of force in here. That's a lot of force over a lot of repetitions. I did the math assuming, so if somebody rows about 30 strokes a minute, which is probably a good average, and it makes the math nice. So 30 strokes a minute, and they row about a 2-minute 500. That means they're doing 60 strokes for that 500. In our CrossFit setting, we probably row about 2,000 meters a week. That's adjusted for summer when we don't row nearly as often. And that's just, I don't know exactly how much we do every week, but that's probably pretty close. So that makes for 240 strokes a week. Then multiplied by 52 weeks in a year, that's 12,480 strokes on the rower. And again, that's not unloaded. It may feel like it's not quite a deadlift, but it's not an unloaded movement. So that's, if you can read my handwriting here and you can get close, we're looking at 12,480. If you're bent in a funny position or you have that spine flexed at the catch position, that's that many movement patterns in an incorrect way and potentially putting your discs at risk for that herniation or at least a bulge. And this is in addition to all the other things that we're doing in the gym. So kettlebell swings, deadlifts, cleans, snatches, even squatting patterns at the bottom, and even some of the other bracing movements like I mentioned before. And then all the things that you're doing outside of the gym, which if your movement patterns are great reinforced as you're doing barbell movements, but you get out of that when you feel like you don't have a barbell in your hands, then you're going to be more prone to bending in poor positions when you are picking up your kids, or a lot of the times when I hear about back injuries, they are not generally with weights. They're generally with something that doesn't seem all that heavy or dangerous. It's usually something kind of ridiculous, and I don't mean that as an insult. I mean that as like most people are like, I pulled my back picking up a golf ball. Because they get out of that proper movement pattern, because they think, okay, weights, good stuff, get good movement, no weights, doesn't matter. So this is 12,480 reinforcements of that idea that you don't have to care about your spine if you don't have a load in that position. So when you're rowing, to bring it all around, when you're rowing, you've got to keep that good spinal integrity and core braced as you're at the catch position here. So here, and extend, and translate through your hips. So knees and hips are going to be the force generators here, mostly the hips, not through your low back doing this. Doing the flex and extend through your back.